Okay. Hi, Kelly. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Douglas. This is a real treat.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for coming on the show. It's nice to have you here. So, I see a whole bunch of books back there, and I got a kick out of your bio because it says you've done a total of 31 books. So that's a small selection of what you've actually accomplished, right?
That's correct. That's the bigger sized books. Um, Not on display are the 10 by 10s. So I couldn't fit them all on the fireplace.
Well, they look very pretty up there. And all of these are children's books, correct?
That is correct. But what I find fascinating is that as young as 8 months old, I have a great nephew, up to my dad, who's just turned 82. Everybody loves them. So they're children's books, but I find that they're entertaining, not just for the 4 to 8 year old genre that they're being marketed in.
Well, I've got to ask right off the bat, how long did it take you to write 31 books?
Not long. They came really, really fast. The bulk of them came within a 14-day period, which wasn't even a year ago of April 20. It's not even a year since I wrote them. I wrote them April 2022, and the bulk of them were in 14 days.
31 books in 14 days.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's pretty incredible. Um,
Thank you.
Although they're not, 90,000 words like a novel, right?
Correct. What they really and truly are, they came as poems and they were born as poems. And what they really are modern day nursery rhymes.
What inspired you to do this? Because I mean, even though they may be short and you did it in 14 days, it's still a pretty daunting task. Why did you take this on?
I felt the need for it. Um, I did a lot of work on myself and I've been through a lot of things, and I got to a place of quiet and calm. And when I got to that place of quiet and calm, I heard the poetry. It entered my awareness. And then I thought, oh, these are for children. And then I thought, oh, they're for children now. So I felt this urgency to get on it. And I literally had a single purpose once I wrote the poems, to convert them into stories and to get them published really as fast as I could. I feel the need for them in the childhood collective, is what I'll say, as far as what the childhood collective has gone through in the past few years. And the books are there for these children that have gone through unprecedented circumstances on a global, worldwide scale. And so I felt the need and I got to work, and I got them out as fast as I could. They were all published. I wrote them really April 2022, and they were all published by the end of September of 2022.
Are you referring to COVID that the kids had to
I
go
am.
through? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. Because it was a global experience for children. It wasn't one place or one geography, it was the entire childhood collective. And these books were born for them.
Okay. Do you have kids of your own? Do you have young children?
I have one 24-year-old beautiful son
Okay.
and a 14-year-old puppy. But I've worked with children, and they're pretty much my heart my whole life.
Did I see on your bio that your puppy is named Teddy Roosevelt?
Yes, it
That's
is.
a great
He is
name.
Teddy Roosevelt. There's a few books about Teddy Roosevelt, um, the Bear Teddy, and because he's such a love, and the Way Teddy, and
Okay.
the Way Teddy is actually about spontaneity. And I get a lot of stories when I'm walking him, and the Way Teddy came when I was walking him one day, and that's about spontaneity and being free to say, well, the dog wants to go left or the dog wants to go right. Does it really matter for me which way we turn?
Well, I'm sure you know this, and maybe other people do too, but the term teddy bear came from Teddy Roosevelt, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Are you a fan of his? Is that why you named your dog Teddy Roosevelt?
Yeah, I am. But additionally, my son, a history buff, actually named him when he was in fifth grade. So yeah, we're big. We're into history, and we always encouraged that when my son was a child. So he named him. Yeah, he named him Teddy Roosevelt.
Okay.
But I'm also a fan of the president as well, and I've read some of his writings, and I've followed some of the work he did, and I feel like it's in line with a lot of what I feel good about.
Well, he was a character, that's for sure. He was definitely different. Let me get back to your books. Now, you had mentioned that COVID was a big inspiration for putting these books out, and you've got a few different series. Let's see, the Essentials series, the Rainbow's End series, the Classics, and My Name Is series. What are the themes for this? I mean, what is the message here for kids, just generally speaking?
Absolutely. The classics are what I consider, all the books are timeless, but the classics are especially so. So you think of a book like Goodnight Moon. I have a book called The Night Quiet. These are books that are timeless, and they really go from that 8 month to 80 as far as their messages and their meaning and what they bring through. So the classics, that's why I call them the classics. The essentials are more what I consider day-to-day ritual books, as far as positive affirmations, positive self-talk, setting up schedule, ritual. For example, one of the books is called The Morning Good, and it's about approaching the morning in an optimistic way. So it's it's a series based on day-to-day routine and scheduling. And then the My Name Is series is all about duality, internal, external, and for the child to start to realize, hey, what do I feel inside? What do things look like outside? And then be able to discuss it. So it models discourse, healthy back and forth discourse, because the My Name Is series is always a conversation between a child and then something else, whether it's a mountain, whether it's light, whether it's a fella that I call Art Fine. So they're about discourse communication in a healthy way to discuss external, internal, and duality. And then finally, Rainbow's End. So the Rainbow's End series, they all begin with the same phrase. The other day, I went to visit a friend who lives at the tail of a rainbow's end. The Rainbow's End stories are about transporting from reality to imagination for the child and the caregiver who's reading the story, so that the caregiver can also be transported to the Rainbow's End. And what's just so fascinating is anything can happen there. So it's a real exciting way to look at the world. So each series is very unique and takes a different approach to the world, but that's what makes it so amazing. They're all special, but they do fall into the four categories.
Is there one particular age group that really responds well to your books? I know you said your father
Yeah,
liked them, but they weren't intended for somebody 80 years old.
I'll tell you what, my great nephew, who is 8 months, is really responding to the essentials, but my great nephew, who is 3.5, is responding to all of them. So I would really say, for the essentials, I feel like that's more, those could be for babies. But once a child is, say, 3, I think we go more into the other series. That's what I've experienced one-on-one. But yeah, 4 to 8, that's a really good gap for the majority of the books. Absolutely.
Is there continuity between the books? In other words, in the series, is it like part 1, part 2, or are they standalone books, basically?
They're standalone. Absolutely. Standalone. I do have some amazing illustrators that I found on iStock. That's how I did the illustrations for the books. And you will find that I will use some illustrations from a particular artist in multiple books. So there's some continuity with the art, but other than that, they all stand completely alone as a single book, which is really pretty cool.
We've got about 2 minutes left, and I just wanted to hit this one thing on your bio. It says a traumatic fire led Kelly on her author journey. Can you
It's
tell us a
true.
little about that?
Yeah, it was awful. 2017, Hurricane Irma came through the South, and we had a house that we had just moved into full time on Hilton Head. And Hurricane Irma came through, and we had pulled out of the driveway to evacuate. And we have video of the house literally blowing up within minutes of us pulling out of the driveway. Someone else videoed it and called 911. So we were leaving the neighborhood, and the emergency vehicles were going to the fire. We
Wow.
didn't. We had no idea. It was awful because we turned around to lock the front door, not knowing that the emergency vehicles were going there. So we came upon it. We came upon the fire, and it's brutal. I just, there's no other way to describe a fire. It was a total loss. In fact, I wrote a book called The Loss Total, which is a flip of the total loss that I experienced. It was rough, but the fire, there would be no books without the fire, because after the fire, I had to get myself into therapy. I had to, because I couldn't even go to the site where the land was without getting ill due to the pathways that got created when I saw the house burn down. So I got into therapy. And without that therapy, I would not have been able to heal, and the books would not have come through. So the fire, even though it was brutal and awful, and the other thing the fire did was it made me look at how I was spending my time and my faith. And I realized that all the work, everything we put into that house, and it was gone in seconds. And I had a sense of, this is so temporary. This is so temporary. All that work, gone. And, I had a little chat with God, and I said, look, I'm willing to try to do things differently. Let's see where it goes. So that's when I got into the therapy, and I did all this work, and it's a lot of work, but I did it. Once I did that, the books were born.
Wow. Incredible story. Now, no one was hurt in the fire, right? You had left the
No,
house.
I mean, that's the other thing. We didn't perish, right? So there's a timestamp on a video of the house exploding. We had literally just pulled out of the driveway.
So this
So
was, you said it was the hurricane. So it was an electrical fire what exploded?
the hurricane, it's still hard to actually state. It was what they call a perfect storm, where the hurricane, the winds of Irma, turned up some things on the grill and then ignited. And we had propane tanks for the grill. We had a heater for being outdoors. That's what exploded.
Oh, so the LP gas exploded. Yeah, the propane. Okay.
And I mean, it was accidental. I mean, there was nothing, we didn't do anything wrong. It was just all these odd things came together in what I call a perfect storm or a perfect fire. And within seconds, I painted the garage of that house. I scrubbed every corner. I painted. I treated it with love. I replaced flooring, and then it was absolutely gone.
An amazing story. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad no one was hurt. And maybe there was a light at the end of that with all of your books that have come out, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Kelly, we got to wrap this up. We are out of time. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Well, I actually self-published through Balboa Press. So the Balboa Press bookstore. And then if you just Google Kelly Anne Manuel, you will see just a variety of ways to get to me and to the books. And so they're pretty much everywhere. You just got to Google me.
All right, great. Well, it was nice meeting you. Thank you for sharing your story. And best of luck with the
Thank you.
books.
Thanks for having me.